Do you guys think the Stunning Strike for the monk is too powerful?
What level do you get it?
Level 5. So most campaigns that have monks see it real early.
Yeah.
Most people start at 3
or 4.
5, yeah, right? Like somewhere around there.
What's the cost for it? I can't remember off the top of my head. Was it just like a couple of key points or something?
I can tell you. Okay, Stunning Strike. Starting at 5th level, you can interfere with the flow of ki in an opponent's body. When you hit another creature with a melee weapon attack, and your fists do count, you can spend 1 key point to attempt a Stunning Strike. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or be stunned until the end of your next turn, which means that
They basically miss a round of play.
and you will have advantage to hit them with another Stunning Strike next round.
Broken.
5th level.
And you have, 5 key points at that level?
At 5th level, yeah, you have as many key points as you do
Levels.
levels.
Yeah. I can see that getting out of hand, but I probably wouldn't change it.
I very much hate it. As a forever DM, I have gone up against a couple of monks, and that shit will just end your boss fights. There's nothing that you can do. You have to throw minions and barriers in the way.
Well, I was going to say, because that would be you would just throw a bunch of smaller, like, nobodies in there, and they would waste their key points on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but by the time that the monk doesn't have to get many more levels before it is doing a ridiculous amount of feet around to be able to just walk through your minions to get up there.
Sure, but let it. And because while it's doing all of that, the rest of the party burns out what they've got. So by the time the monk actually gets around to using it on the, big bad evil guy, everybody else has been tapped for everything they got already.
And a Constitution saving throw for a big bad evil guy.
Well, it depends. If they're a mage, they're going down in the first hit.
That's true, but at what point would it be like, oh, well, never mind, it's a monk. It can catch up with a mage. Never mind, I take that back.
Yeah, my problem is that on more than one occasion, I've seen this on the second round wipe out the tank, right? Where you have the one big guy and 3 little guys around him, and like this is just, and it's an auto pass for combat encounters, and you can do it all the freaking time.
So here's the thing about being a DM that I really like, is that you can fudge your rolls and nobody's the wiser.
I was going to say something like that, but I'm like, I don't want to be that asshole.
Oh, no, I'm that asshole. But, the Constitution save is 14. Gee, 23.
The magic number is 27, by the way. Anytime you want something to magically hit, 27.
But, you gotta measured expectations, right? Make him burn through his key points to figure it out. I mean, how many times, Adam, have you run an encounter where you've had to change the hit points of a monster to level out the playing field?
I never do it on the fly. I never do it. I will homebrew the crap out of shit before the session, but I will never, ever, ever change what the hit points or the
It's
DC
on you as a
is.
DM if you fucked up going into it.
Pretty much, yeah. I try to stay honest to myself about it. However, there are some things that are just like, I was not expecting you guys to try to lift that building. I will come up with a difficulty class now for it.
Yeah.
Right, but for monster hit points and stuff, no, I always just run max hit points, period.
I always just try to feel out the table. If they're having fun with this encounter and they're doing good things and it's working, let them have another round or two. If they've already beat it and everything, just get it done and over with. Let's make the game interesting, not just stick to the rules.
Oh, I like to stick to the rules because that's why I always come up with something crazy.
I am the rules.
Oh my.
There it is. Yikes.
Welcome to the It's a Mimic podcast with your DMs, Adam, Dave, and Megan.
Welcome to another episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, the Roundtable Dungeons & Dragons discussion, where you never know what you're going to get. I'm Adam, and with me are Megan and Dave, and today we're talking about condition effects again.
We're reconditioning, yes?
Yes. Oh, shut up, Dave.
Stop it.
Okay.
All right, so what have we done? We've done blinded, we've done charmed, deafened, frightened, we've done grappled, invisible, poisoned, prone, restrained, and today we're going to cover incapacitated, paralyzed, petrified, and stunned in not that order. And there's really only one other one that's included in the base level, which is unconscious. However, we have another 2 condition episodes after this coming because we're covering all of those crazy other rules that technically exist that nobody talks about that aren't really conditions, but they drag your character down. So for this one, though, we're talking about pretty much captive audiences, You are stuck where you are, and you've got to put up with it.
Yay!
My favorite part.
Does this frustrate you guys as players?
All day, every day.
You don't like being stunned and incapacitated and all that?
I feel, and I've talked about this, but I talked about this in the grappled episode too. As soon as I stop being able to do stuff, I'm the player that definitely sits back, crosses my arms, and huffs for a minute. I'll get over it in like a round or two, but like I'll be like, well, this fucking sucks, because you spend all of your time building a character to be able to do all these cool things in battle, and you can't do shit.
That is going to be a constant theme today, is like, you're robbing the agency away from the players, right? Which is the one thing that we always say, don't do that. And yet these conditions are very much, do that. Yeah. Dave, how do you feel about it?
I mean, as a player, it doesn't really bother me that much. I normally will have gotten myself into that predicament and am willing to pay the price. However, it sucks when you've got a table that doesn't go through combat quickly and you're stunned for 1d4 rounds and it comes up with a 4. And
you
then
sit
you
there
gotta
for an
sit
hour?
there, and doing nothing.
Well, the wizard looks up their spell for the 19th time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just kind of check out and pull up your phone. Because, I mean, I'm playing all online right now with my friends, so they can't see what I'm doing anyways. But so mute the microphone.
Yep.
Yeah, so it has a place, absolutely, but you got to do it right.
It's weird that there are so many similar conditions in 5th ed, considering that they have just straight up missed other things. Like, their swallowed mechanic is weird. Their drowning mechanic is just bizarre.
It's great how long you can survive while drowning.
It's minutes. It is minutes. It is ridiculous. There are so many, like, they don't have rules for being scarred. They've got weird rules about curses that are poorly defined. Like, it's weird that they spend so much time on this. And let's get into the first one, which is incapacitated. Because everything else is going to say,
You're incapacitated.
you're incapacitated and.
Yeah.
So here's the base for this. An incapacitated creature can't take actions or reactions. Now, I actually went and looked this up, and it says in the rulebook, you choose when to take a bonus action during your turn unless the bonus action's timing is specified, and anything that deprives you of your ability to take actions also prevents you from taking a bonus action. So this does take away the rogue's ability to dash or disengage or any of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you do still have your movement. That's what incapacitated gives you.
So, if you were to use like a bonus action spell,
You can't do it.
because you can't move, is that
No, because you don't have an action, right?
Okay.
If it takes away your ability to have an action, then you do not get a bonus action.
Okay, got
Or
you.
you also don't get reactions, so the only thing you can do is move, which is, I think, the exact opposite of restrained, which is the only thing you can do is, or the only thing you can't do is move. Everything else
You can do.
Yeah.
So you can do your spells, you can do your...
You can do
nonsense.
attacks as long as stuff is
You're not
nearby.
moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how do you guys feel about this basic mechanic? I see this all the time in monster stats and the stuff that they do. They hit and they will do incapacitated conditional effects. How do you guys feel about this one? Is it too simplistic? Like, I don't even know why we have this.
I don't think it's needed. I feel like if you can cut out incapacitated and just use stun, paralyzed, petrified, and just the incapacitated it's just there. I don't think it needs to be there on its own.
It's weird to me because it says you can't take actions, and I still have 3.5 brain, so I have a move action and a standard action.
Yeah.
So when I read it can't take actions, I can't do either.
No, it's specifically the action.
Action, yeah.
So, I mean, obviously your clarification helps, but yeah, again, I agree. It doesn't...
There's no point in having it.
No, everything else here says, every other thing we're going to cover today starts with...
You are incapacitated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This, I feel, this to me is what stunned should be. The idea that you get smacked upside the head. I played sports enough that there'd be the occasional contact. You take a knee in the temple or whatnot. And you get up and you can move around, but you're not doing much anything else for the next couple of seconds, right? That's what this feels like to me.
Yeah.
Where that legit is stunned. Like,
Yeah.
so...
Like stars around your head.
Yeah,
like
kind
taking
of.
a moment.
Yeah,
Tweety birds.
Yeah.
you can
Yeah,
still
yeah.
walk to the sidelines, but you're not...
Yeah, you're winded. You need to take a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's weird.
Yeah, because everything that you just explained, you could also say that you were stunned,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So I want to grab dice really quickly. With this, how do you keep it interesting for you as a player when you become incapacitated? I got a 2.
5.
11. I don't know. I haven't really used it. I've got limited experience in 5th edition. And I don't think it's come up yet where we've actually been incapacitated. It's always been stunned or something else.
But if you were a player,
Yeah.
here's the question.
Uh-huh.
If you were a player, how would you keep yourself entertained? What advice do you have for other players out there to keep yourself entertained during this debilitating condition effect so that you don't just pull your phone out and ride your thumb or whatever
Well,
it
it
is?
would depend, because if I still have my movement and I'm a paladin, I can certainly get between attacking creatures and party members and just be that meat shield that I'm supposed to be.
You can still suck up damage. like
Right?
you're saying, yeah.
If I'm a wizard, I'm not going to do that. Right? So, I mean, it's kind of situation dependent. But, I would try to play with my strength. If I'm a wizard, I'm just going to use that move action to get the heck out of dodge.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's really all I could do. And, I mean, that's enough to keep me paying attention, for sure.
Okay. Megan?
I think the thing you always forget about is when you're during your turn, you can talk to the other players.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's forgotten sometimes. So yes, use your movement to get out of dodge, but at the same time, you can use your voice to warn that whatever attack just hit you is going to hurt someone else, or just use that moment to actually speak to the people on your team, navigate, coordinate. If you're the paladin, organize them to the battle structure you want them to be in. If you're the wizard, it's a warning, or it's a don't worry, I'm going to heal you next round, or whatever. Use that time to speak to the team.
Do you think that is metagaming?
No, I think that if you're on a battlefield and you're within 30, 40 feet of people, you're going to be yelling at each other.
Yeah, I agree.
I think a lot of people would say, though, that if you sit there and go, oh, you need to go cast this spell, or you start doing that level of coaching, or I'm going to cast this next round, they would say that that's metagaming.
I wouldn't go that far. I would be just along the lines of just don't worry, I've got you.
Yeah.
That kind of communication.
The general, could someone please blow this motherfucker up?
Yeah,
Right?
or
that
watch
kind of
out for
thing.
that fucking tentacle that just came out of the ceiling. Those kinds of speeches. Not hey, guess what? I'm going to use this spell, so my movement, so I'm going to...
If you take away the mechanical side of it and you stick with the
emotional
in-game
side of
flavor,
it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That was going to be my answer too, is talking through it and whatnot. But I really like the idea of keeping yourself in the action economy, right? The way that most creatures are balanced, the main feature that they have with their challenge rating is how many attacks a round they get. Mm-hmm. Well, plus hit points and AC. Those are really the big things that dictate what makes them as difficult as they are. If I can get in there and suck up a couple of hits, even if I'm a D8 hit die kind of character, like a monk or a druid or whatnot, and I can suck up that damage, that means that the squishy sorcerer is not going to get beat upside the head, then that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I'm still an active part of it, and I also love the idea of a guy just getting totally beat in the face, seeing stars, not able to really do anything, and he's just walking in the way of more hits.
But not actually aware that that's what he's doing. He's just kind of stumbling around and just getting hit all over the place. Oh, that just sounds sad now.
All right, let's move on to the next one, and the one that I think most people have the biggest problem with, especially dungeon masters: stunned. So a stunned creature is incapacitated, as we just talked about, and they can't move, and they can only speak falteringly. Now, first of all, I'm going to point out that it says that you can speak falteringly here, which means that it is implied that you can speak normally with incapacitated. Mm-hmm. A lot of people say that with the idea that you can't take actions is you can't speak or form thoughts. And nope, that's this. That is what we are coming up to now. The creature automatically fails strength and dex saves. The attack rolls against the creature have advantage.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about this?
Well, when I first read that they can only speak falteringly, I read it as they can only speak flatteringly. I was like, oh, so okay.
Well, you are stunning.
Stop it.
That was a great punch to my head. Yeah.
Good job. Ow, fuck.
It was great. It's my favorite. It's my favorite when that happens. Yes. Oh, Lord.
So, we talked a little bit about the stunning strike in the cold open at the beginning. I don't like it because I think it happens way too early. I'm fine with you getting it at later levels, but the stunned condition, where you as a player have all of this taken away from you, and all you can do is speak in broken sentences, how does that feel?
This is so close to Paralyzed that it just, again, almost seems unnecessary. Like, I get it that it is necessary, but it's just like, just that far off, right? Like, they're real close.
I keep trying to think that, like, having this many of the same thing isn't necessary, but you can understand that it's the levels of being stunned. Like, it's almost like it should be stunned, and these are the levels at which you are stunned.
Almost like a table like exhaustion is, right? So you can get hit, and the more you get hit by someone that can stun you, the more levels you get. See, I'm fine with that. Even for monks. Level 5, you can incapacitate people.
Yeah.
Then the villain can run away.
This
right?
increases to stunned at level 10 and paralyzed at level 15 kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No.
And I would have maybe even a couple of crazy things in the middle, like your movement is halved. Right? Or maybe in the first one you can take an action or a reaction, and it levels with you for a monk, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's just me. How do you guys feel about it from a player perspective where you are getting stunned?
Well, this is your turn is over. Like, there's literally nothing you can do on your turn. So this is I'm going to take my phone out and do nothing.
I don't like it because it means that the bad guys can critical hit me real easy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah, and the majority of spells and even breath weapons and effects and whatnot rely on a dex save to get you out of it. You auto-fail that. Mm-hmm. Right? And when I think about strength saves as well, I'm sitting there thinking, like, the roof caves in, you're dead?
Yeah.
What strength save are we dealing with here? You're going to get crushed by the closing walls? You're getting drawn and quartered, and those horses are just going to run. Right? What is the strength save that you are auto-failing here that is just... Like, they all seem so deadly.
Well, yeah, I think because I was trying to think of what you strength save when you're in battle, and usually it would just be like to stop pushbacks from happening. So like if they hit you with something, you're strength saving to not be pushed back.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that you're really saving against for that. So if anything, they're helping you by pushing you back.
So your faltering words are, hit me.
Hit me.
Push me, please. So this to me does feel like the Tweety Bird effect, but without the moving, right? Without being able to get off to the sideline.
Yeah.
From a player perspective, if I get stunned, I'm going to be pissed.
Yes.
That is just annoying. As a DM, when my monsters get stunned, I'm also pissed. This is very annoying. Yeah. And there's a surprising amount of creatures that can inflict this condition effect. How do you guys, from a player's perspective, counter that boredom, that upset, that pushback and huff when you can only do basic talking? Let's roll for it.
Ooh, 19.
Ooh, I got a 17.
9.
Dave, you keep going first.
So for Paralyzed.
No.
Oh.
Nope, we're stunned.
Stunned. We're still on stunned.
Yeah.
Yep. How do you keep yourself entertained during this? You can't duck in front of people now.
I don't. I wait my turn and just...
You're just happy to be a pouty player?
And this is when I go and get a glass of water, and hopefully it comes back to me real quick. And I'm going to just sit there and make those shitty jokes that get people off topic real fast. That's when I will become the distraction at the table, which I like being a player, but I hate that player as a DM. So I will become what I hate the most.
I will straight up throw fucking dice at you. But
Yeah, because I'm just trying to have fun.
Okay, do you have any advice for anybody then, listening, about how to make the most out of this situation?
Throw the pointy dice first. Like,
you just really don't like stunned, hey?
It takes away everything that makes the game fun.
It takes away your agency,
right? And you literally can't do anything except mumble out a couple of words that might help. But if you're sitting at a table with people you've been playing with forever and ever, you're not going to say anything useful. They know what they're doing already.
Yeah, one of the things that I will do when I'm knocked right out, when I'm stunned, and honestly, as a dungeon master, when I end up quote unquote stunned all the freaking time anyway, because I put my enemy there on the table, and then I know when I've done my prep, all of the abilities that it can do. It's only got 3 different kinds of attacks. It doesn't have a character sheet, multiple pages of shit it can do, right? And yet, I'm sitting there waiting for the wizard to choose a spell and the paladin to go, which smite? I have 3 smites. Which smite should I use? Right?
And what spell slot? How many dice is that again? Let me count the ways.
Yeah, and the druid sitting there going, now does wild shape stack with temporary hit dice. Hold on, I gotta grab a book. So I spend a lot of my time waiting anyway, and I use that time to go through my notes. So for players, and I will ask you, Megan, because I think that you are probably... you have witnessed this around the table more than most others because you sit at a table with Dan. Who needed to have Indomitable written across the top of his sheet and forgot it 90% of the time anyway. This is the opportunity where I'm going to start looking at those weird racial features that I never think about.
Yeah.
Or the class feature, the subclass feature that I picked up at level 2 and, it's not applicable. We've been fighting undead for a while, so I don't really use it, but it's starting to maybe become a little bit more applicable these days. I'm going through the items that I've picked up, and I'm like, guys, do we ever identify a blue potion?
Yeah. It's like, well, make a note to do that later. Yeah.
Yes. And in my head, the way that I justify this in character is, do you guys ever wake up from that dream and suddenly that moment when you wake up at 2 a.m. and you remember the name of the song?
Oh, yes. Or the name of that actor that you were trying to think of earlier from that movie you saw when you were 3 years old? Yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea of getting your bell rung so hard you can't do anything else, but you're just like, oh, I've got freaking daggers in my bag. And one of them's red. Right? And that's my thought process. But as a player, I can sit there and I can look at what I've got listed out, my complicated sheet of, like, I don't remember who Ugly Gerblegah is. I don't know what this word is anymore on my sheet. Apparently he was a noble we met 3 towns back. Does anyone else remember what he is? Right? And I'm going back to my notes and trying to put shit together because I have seen how players write notes. It is usually the first half of one word and then a penis that has been doodled on the page. So at that point, I'm going to try to go back and kind of figure out just what these penises mean. Like, is it an orientation thing? Like, this one's down, that one's...
What does it mean?
What do the dicks mean?
I normally take care of that stuff with the recap at the beginning of the session. I always spend a considerable amount of time, like maybe 15, 20 minutes with everybody going through the notes that they have and going through... not round by round, but systematically what we did last time.
See, I always do that too. Megan knows this. I always start off every session. We know we're playing when I go, so what happened last time?
Yep.
And that kicks us off. However, I'm talking about the notes from 6 or 7 sessions ago.
The nuances.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We do have a contact on the other continent that can identify shit for free. We just haven't thought about them in a while. Can we send them a message of some sort? Right? It's that kind of stuff that we haven't thought about in a couple of months. Right? Or and again, item lists and class features, because I'm telling you, people forget them.
I was gonna say the class features is the most important one.
You're not wrong. The class features is important because that's not something I'm going over with you. You know, that's your problem. If you can't remember it, you don't do it. That's fine.
Even your race features too. There have been times where I forget there are things I can do because I'm a human or because I'm a dragonborn or what have you.
There is more to a background than simply 2 skill proficiencies.
Yeah.
There's so much more, and a lot of the stuff is like, oh, hey, you get free room and board in harbor towns. And well, that's fucking good to know. I didn't write that shit down on my character sheet. I just took my proficiencies and moved on, right?
Yeah.
And so, using the opportunity to go back and see what else is going on with my character. When I'm stunned, I got nothing else to do. I'm gonna do this.
That makes sense. I was going to say that along the lines of you use that time to strategize your next move, because usually when you're in battle, you spend your whole round planning out your turn, and then the asshole right before you did something that fucks up your entire plan.
Damn.
Every fucking time.
And Dan always had by far the highest initiative as well, so he would go first, so it's top of the round.
Every time.
Yeah.
Just get out of my way, sir.
That's brutal.
So
That's the worst.
Yeah. But I feel like it's a good time when you literally can't do anything to think of other weird creative ways to use your abilities. To your point, check your stuff. But I also find that's the time to look at your spells and look at your basic attacks. How can I combo this next round? Or when I am awake, what can I do next? Mm-hmm. I also just thought I would just try and figure out what weird swear words I can make with only being able to speak, flatteringly.
You are fucking beautiful.
Just to be some kind of form of entertainment. Because I do feel, and I've talked about this in a few other Conditions episodes, I can be the player that will sit back and huff and cross my arms for about 5 or 10 minutes every once in a while if something doesn't go my way. We're human, it happens. But if you let it go on too long and not just take it lightheartedly, it will eventually impede everybody else's ability to have a good time, even though you're the only one that's having an issue, right? So, but I mean, if we're human, you're allowed to have an emotional reaction to being disappointed in the fact that your character can't do what you want it to do. But at the end of the day, you're all there to have a good time. So what you can do to keep the comedy up or the seriousness up or cheer on your other players, like don't coach them, but just give them like, that was a really awesome move, like good combo, like be involved in their turns just from an emotional standpoint, I think is a good thing to do just to be productive at the table.
That's actually a really good point for everybody all of the time. If you can make the other players around the table as important as your own character in your mind, if you can stay interested in the idea that they're using the 2nd level spell instead of their 6th level spell, and the 6th level one could probably end this encounter right away. Why are they using the 2nd? And you start to think like them and figure it out. You become more aware of the tactics around the table. You will become a better player.
Yeah, because it will help you in the future in the sense that if you more understand what this paladin does, then you can actually support them better in the next battle.
Yeah, you can predict what they're going to do a little
Exactly.
easier, yeah.
All right.
All right, so let's take a second and jump away to a break, and we will be back with Paralyzed in a moment. Hi everybody, it's Adam, and once again we're dedicating a full episode to conditions and condition effects in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And we can't have these conversations without discussing our old friend, WildBot 3D. WildBot 3D has really revamped their website since the last time we discussed them on the show, and you should definitely check out the updated options there. They still have those glorious tracker rings that display the conditions in 3D on your gaming table, and they fit so beautifully around standard medium-sized minis and cover nearly everything we've been discussing on these condition-heavy episodes. They're color-coded, easy to read, unique, and fun to add to all of your D&D games. I use them in my own game all the time, and I've come to rely on them to keep track of which character has what spell or condition affecting them. My personal favorite is the enlarged tracker, but they're all great for both DMs and players alike to buy. Monks that stun, clerics that curse, and warlocks that hex, there are tracker rings for you in here too. But WildBot 3D offers more than just these tracker rings now. There are also unique character sheets for martial and caster classes, there's beautiful dice, and hilarious D&D themed t-shirts. My next purchase is going to be the Initiative Tracker Rings, which help display who's going in which order, and are incredibly useful for keeping track of multiple monsters on your map. These things are a game changer, so head on over to wildbot3d.com and check them out on Instagram. But for now, let's head on back to the discussion. Okay, so, Paralyzed. Starts off with, you're incapacitated, because that's the word that we're going to see more and more as we keep going through the conditions. The creature automatically fails strength and dex saving throws. You can't move, and you can't speak at all. Attack rolls have advantage against you, and any attack that hits you is a critical if that attack is within 5 feet of you, which is nuts.
Yeah, you might as well be dead.
That's coup de grace territory.
You will be, yeah.
Well, they don't have coup de grace anymore. They used to have a mechanic for that in 3.5.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
I didn't like it.
I didn't like it either. This is something I like a little bit better.
Except for that one time, the monk we were playing with, coup de grace, that black dragon. That was good.
Oh man.
Yeah. So it made for big, cool set piece moments, but it also would just set DMs on their ass. Right? What do you do here? So with Paralyzed, how do you guys feel about it?
I hate it.
Why?
Well, here's I mean, there's really not a whole lot to like about it. I feel like
As a DM, there's a lot to like about it.
touche.
Until it happens to your guy.
Yeah, when it happens. Yes, I see what you're saying. I feel like this is great for any character with more than 60 hit points. You're okay for a round or two. When it's under 60 hit points, when you do this to a goblin, when your level 5 paladin walks up, and for some reason the goblin is paralyzed, and they just get that auto crit, that goblin is dead. The goblin is missed at the end of that mace, right? However, to a dragon, that's nothing. Whatever, it's going to eat up that damage just fine. A level 12 fighter is going to laugh this off as well. A kobold comes up. Let's even say something a little bit heavier hitting, like a bone devil comes up and hits you and just gets that auto crit on you. Okay, sure. You're still going to shrug that shit off. It's a third of your hit points. Players always panic when they lose more than 10 hit points at a time.
Yes. Absolutely.
Do you have any idea how many healing spells there are in 5th edition? There's
No, I'm a
shit
paladin
ton.
who doesn't use them.
Right, smite. Dave, how do you feel about this?
If you're using it like we had talked about with the tiers of incapacitated, stunned, paralyzed, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think if you're doing this, like you said, at low levels, I mean, it's a death sentence. Just kill it now. Why are you going to continue, just dragging it out? It makes it less interesting. However, where this one I think really shines is when you get into like your later tier 3, tier 4, you're fighting the lieutenant of the boss who's got his like 3 big henchmen kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's really useful there because that's when, as a player, that's a really good, effective time to use it. And you're probably not walking around doing this to every one of them. You're probably doing this once and doing that, then doing something else. So it's a good way to neutralize one small threat or one large one to deal with the other one. It's a good distraction.
This helps you rebalance the encounter.
Yeah, it gives you a second to take stock of what's going on and reevaluate and go from there in your later tier encounters. But yeah, no, at tier 1, tier 2, no, it's game breaker.
Yeah, I feel like it works really well in a DM's favor too, that if your team is rolling up to a big bad that you know is going to kill them and you want to give them pause, there are a lot of abilities that usually big bads have to paralyze them, essentially. Like, we talked about this in a lot of our dragon episodes where they have the ability to just stop them for a second and be like, you might want to talk about this before you act rationally.
Especially the good dragons as well. They will just straight up slow you or they've got the repulsion breath to knock you back or whatever.
Yeah, just to take that moment of pause and be like, I'm sorry, but we could actually just hear me out before you react, right?
I would use this as well for anyone who is asleep. Not the unconscious, but paralyzed. I'll say it all again. You're incapacitated, which means you don't take actions or reactions. Mm-hmm. You can't move. You can't speak. You automatically fail strength and dex saves. Attack rolls against you have advantage. And any creature that hits you will get a critical hit if they're within 5 feet of you. If you're asleep, doesn't that sum it up nicely?
Checks out. Kerstab.
That's one of the things that I'm missing, honestly, is the sleep condition, which, again, has existed in previous editions and does not exist anymore in 5th ed. I feel like Paralyzed is actually the right level. The only thing that I would add to it for sleep is that you'd probably have disadvantage on perception checks.
Oh, yeah, insight. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how many times I've looked for something like a sleep effect because, everybody goes down for the night and we only put one person on watch?
Yeah.
And I just want to make you roll con saves to stay awake so that if you fall asleep, I can have something come up and smack you.
Yeah. Well, right. I've had DMs do that before, where if you're on watch, you have to roll one con save to see if you actually stay awake during your watch. Like, I've been involved in games like that, and it does make it more interesting for the DM and for the players, because then you can have those random encounters, right?
Yeah. Yes, Dave, you're smirking.
Just a couple days ago when we played, they put the NPC player up for watch, and he fell asleep, and zombies came and attacked them, so I like this. This is... it resonates. They were not too thrilled.
Well, I do feel like, because we always forget sometimes that it should be fun for the DM too, and I think a lot of the fun comes from the random encounters and putting them in situations they weren't expecting, and I think that having a con save to sleep with the paralyzed feature as your sleep, it kind of gives them the freedom to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. The DM, nobody remembers that the DM is a player.
Yeah. You are not allowed to have fun, Adam.
Oh, fuck, tell me about it. I'm too busy doing podcasts. So, how do you stay interested then? If you get paralyzed, what are you doing to keep your mind active and to stay engaged in the story so that you don't just pull a Dave and whip your phone out? I did say phone. Let's roll dice.
Should bleep that out.
Yeah.
5. I'm rolling like shit.
Dave, roll off. We both got 10s. I got a 12.
I got a 5.
All right.
I'm just copying everybody this time.
Yeah.
Honestly, for me, I'm going to run my comedic inner monologue. You get paralyzed, and all of a sudden, I remember the day. I was a child. It was a sunny day, and my mother came out of the bed. And I'm just going to monologue through my turn. Mm-hmm. I still get my turn, but I'm going to try to do something where I'm stuck inside my own head. And I'm going to try to do something to make everybody kind of be aware that I'm sitting there off in my own brain, doing my own thing, so they haven't forgotten me, because a lot of times when one person gets paralyzed, everybody just writes them off as scenery until they come back. And that is very much not the case because, as we said with Incapacitated, you can still take a bunch of damage.
Yeah.
Right? And when you get hit, you're taking a lot of damage. So that's intense, right? So I'm gonna keep my brain active, and I'm gonna try to be a little bit more comedic with it and entertain myself. And I have probably 20 minutes until my turn comes around to write a ridiculous little 6-second monologue.
It's true.
You're not wrong. I would take the opportunity to go get a I would take the opportunity to get a refreshing ice cold glass of Coca-Cola. Sponsor us. No, I would just honestly, I would probably spend the time looking up combat maneuvers and stuff that I don't really know that well. As a DM, I don't normally have the downtime to do this kind of thing, but as a player, this is when I can go and shore up my knowledge on things that I don't have that much of, right? Like, I'm still new to 5th edition, you know, I'm still learning, so it's a good opportunity for me to kind of go back, look in the book, and find these things that I not necessarily are applicable to my character, but maybe it's applicable to the warlock at my table who's a new player, and I can help them with this new mechanic that I haven't used or they haven't used before.
There are a couple of utterly ignored sections of the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide, which are all about rules for combat and adventuring, and like everyone sees the table for gear, but how many people know how a net works? Not networks. That's not what I'm saying.
You mean the Matrix?
No, that's no.
Who's a net?
God, fuck. All right, so nobody knows how nets operate in 5th edition. Fuck both of you. So, I miss Dan.
Do you?
No, I don't. So, fuck you guys. Yeah, no, there's a lot of really good info that's in the Player's Handbook, that's in the Dungeon Master's Guide, that is completely ignored, or people read it once, or they only go look at it like, I want to be able to push somebody, how do I do that? And then they never go back. There are mechanics in there. You can find the shit. It's a great idea to pick it up. I don't like people flipping through books at the table, but it does need to happen sometimes.
I am all for flipping through a book at the table if it's not your turn.
Sure. And that's kind of my caveat. A lot of the times, though, you will have someone who's trying to look up a spell, and then it will come to their turn, and they will realize, like Megan said, it's the person before you that screws your plan up.
Every time.
And so you're reaching for that book again, flipping pages, and wait a minute, was that in Xanathar's?
Yeah.
Hold on a sec. All right, does anybody have the Sword Coast Adventures Guide? All right, who's got Google? Right? Like,
Let me just pull it up real quick. Ugh,
yeah.
Drives me nuts.
Exactly. And so I find that having a book in your lap will immediately bleed into your turn. But when you're paralyzed anyway, you've got not just 20 minutes, you've got a while. You could read a chapter. Like, do your thing.
It's true.
What do you do on your turn, Megan?
Well, I was just going to say before
When the pouting is done.
When the pouting is done, I was going to say, as I was getting paralyzed, I would try to figure out what stance my character would take. Like, what is my body doing physically?
Are you going to stand up and hold that pose for the next 20 minutes?
Yes. No, I think to everybody's point, it's a lot of the same what we've been talking about, in the sense that this is the time where you can re-strategize. And I would think that if this was the first time this happened to my character specifically, I would almost think that this character now would start researching, how do I avoid this from happening in my future? Mm-hmm. If I'm a magic character, am I now looking at counter spells? Am I now looking at how can I in the future stop this from happening to me? Because we always forget how shitty it is and how to stop it from happening until it happens. And then you're fucked, and then you're mad about it. So I think that if it's the first time that it's happened to you, this is the time to spend to figure out how you can make it easier for your character to avoid it happening to them in the future. So it's the downtime to do that research. But of course, just staying involved, and again, to your point of comedic with using your inner monologue and words, I would probably use just the position of my body as something to be really entertaining. Like just setting up a big fuck you, like middle finger in the middle of it, and you're just standing there like, yes.
All right, now I got another question for you guys. From a Dungeon Master's perspective, when one of the players gets paralyzed, do you have your enemies attack everyone else and prioritize the people that are not paralyzed? Or do they go for the kill?
I think it depends on the enemy, to be honest with you. Because there are certain ones that are more barbaric than others, in the sense where they would rather attack the strongest thing attacking them, or there are those that are like, well, I know this is the weakest thing, so I'm going to attack the weakest thing. So I think it would be dependent on what's its immediate danger, I would say.
Dave?
Yeah, same kind of idea. It would have to be how smart the bad guy is and what the circumstance of battle is. If, you know, the only guy who's paralyzed is 40 feet in front of the rest of the party and there's 3 guys around him, yeah, he's going to get stabbed by all 3 of those guys. That's just how it is.
If you're surrounded.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if it's something probably low CR level, like a kobold goblin kind of thing. They're not thinking that, oh, well, this one's done, let's go get this guy now, we'll come back to it. Like, they're just looking at what's in front of them and going for that easy kill. So it would really have to depend on...
Your stab motion, by the way, nobody else can see it, looks a whole lot like you feeding the birds.
Yeah.
I like how you just couldn't say it. I was like watching you trying so hard.
He's distributing literature.
Oh, that was the best struggle I've ever seen in my life.
Yep.
I think it depends on whether or not they're really high or low intelligence. I've had this argument with Dan and Terry both a couple times on previous episodes, where when do you go for the kill? And I think that a beast, a wolf, just because you're knocked down, they don't give a fuck. They're going to rip your throat out.
Your food.
Right? But at the same time, an ancient black dragon will say, okay, I get a kill. I'm going for the kill. I'm removing him permanently from the battlefield. Mm-hmm. Right? I will let this guy hit me because I'm going to remove him, and that's going to cause more pain and more damage.
Yeah.
Right? If there's a bounty hunter, this is a guaranteed payday. It's curious to me at what point they're going to realize that someone else is the bigger threat. Like, if it's the ogre's turn and the person just got paralyzed in front of them, would they recognize that a person is paralyzed and then reprioritize? Or would they just keep smashing away? Or is it the other player's job to distract the ogre away?
Yeah.
Right? And
like
so,
call command or something like that, just to get its attention away from the...
Yeah, or even just shoot it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to take much.
To draw its attention to you, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's an interesting question for Dungeon Masters to say, at what point does your monster realize that someone's been taken out of play?
Yeah.
And do they care? If it's a spider and someone just goes limp and they drop, well, okay, that's a meal. I will come back to that later, and I want them alive. Mm-hmm. I want them paralyzed.
Yeah.
Right? But again, at the same time, an owlbear is probably just territorial, and we've knocked that guy down. He's no longer a threat. But I'm still going to wipe him out because I don't want anything else in my territory. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like intelligence itself is not even, like the intelligence stat's not a great indicator.
Yeah.
As well. I almost need to roll insight or
motive and initiative, basically. Like,
yeah.
What is it trying to do? Like, to your point, like if it's a black dragon, it's going to be like, get the fuck out and it's going to kill you. But a silver dragon or one of the better side dragons is going to be like, I just need to incapacitate you so I can get out because I have no joy in killing you.
Yeah, right? you can't speak or move or anything, but you can listen.
Yeah, exactly. I have a story to tell.
Yeah. So, I think that whenever I see the paralyzed condition appear in one of my monster stat blocks, like, hey, I can do this to someone else, I've got to stop and really think. Stunned as well. At what point am I prioritizing active members?
Yeah.
All right, let's move to my personal favorite, Petrified. A petrified creature is transformed along with any non-magical object it is wearing or carrying into a solid, inanimate substance, usually stone. Yes.
Usually.
I laughed out loud when I read that because I was trying to think of all the other kinds of...
Pudding. You just turn into pudding.
And mush. Just...
But it does say solid, but like...
Yeah.
I like does Jell-O count?
Yeah.
I would say so.
Cool. You become a gelatinous barbarian. Its weight increases by a factor of 10, and it ceases aging. The creature is incapacitated, of course, can't move or speak, and is unaware of its surroundings. But that doesn't mean that it's not aware, like you're trapped inside your own brain. Attack rolls against a creature have advantage. The creature automatically fails strength and dex saves. You have resistance to all damage. Strangely, that even includes psychic. The creature is immune to poison and disease, although a poison or disease already in its system is suspended and not neutralized. How do you guys feel about this?
I feel like it's a character ender.
I don't. I feel like you could use this to your advantage if you get somewhere and a player gets poisoned and you have no way to fix it and it's going to kill them, you petrify them and drag their ass back to town and fix them.
I'm trying to think of what else this would be like a boon to have. And I like the idea of you are on a ship that is sinking and you got like a sea elf. One of your players can breathe underwater. Just petrify everybody else and drag their asses to shore.
Yeah, like this one.
This takes you 9 weeks to do.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Roll a d10. That's how many weeks it takes you.
So you like this from a strategic standpoint?
I like the idea that you can use this to be a positive thing, where the other three we've covered so far, there's not a lot of upside to it.
That's true.
Yeah, it does sound more like the negative conditions where this can be more protective.
It could also be very negative, but you gotta look for the positivity in things,
Well, because
right?
how many times have you had somebody petrified in a game in stone and all you really wanted to do was smash it?
Oh, every time.
Every time.
Yeah, honestly, we normally just leave them behind and keep going.
Yeah, turns into petrified wood, light them on fire. It'd be great.
The thing that interests me is the fact that it's non-magical items, right? Get turned to stone or petrified wood or whatever with you, which means that your magic items are still there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking sort of the stone style, like you walk into the crypt and you see the statue holding the sword above his head in a heroic pose, and no, that's actually a dude who is aware, and you're breaking those fingers off to get that stone, and that dude is alive still. Right, this feels plot hookish to me.
This is
right?
getting very dark.
This is why you need the amputation feature.
There we
right?
go.
Yeah.
So, Megan, how do you feel about this?
I'm neutral to it. I just feel like, again, I feel like it's a almost like a game ending. Like you used it in the end of one of your games.
I did. I turned everyone to stone,
To
and then the
stone.
next campaign was go rescue them.
Exactly, right? So it's a way of like freezing things in time, which I think can be used to everybody's advantage. Is just if you want a character to live forever, petrify them into a statue. If you want, like, to your point, if someone's sick and dying, petrify them. You've got time. We didn't think to do this with the goddamn bird that was sick in our campaign, which I'm now thinking in my head. We should have just petrified him.
Yeah, the
moved
8-year-old
on.
Kenku child that got a blood plague, and so you guys just gave him to hags. He'll be fine.
Well, the paladin and the wizard tried to combine their spells to find a way to keep him alive, when really we should have just petrified him. So it can be used for a lot of really good, neat things, and I think to your point, in more of a creative stance. So I think out of all of them, it's more, it can go either way. So I enjoy it a little bit. It's easier to swallow, shall we say.
I really like the idea too of there being like rickety bridges and stuff, and something that's doing this petrification, and the people turn to stone, and then the planks will break out from underneath them and down they go, because their weight it increases by a factor of 10.
Yeah.
That's intense. That's amazing. I love using that as a plot point. I love using that as the entire party is coming across a bridge at you, and you just turn them all to stone systematically, kick them off the bridge,
Yeah.
and walk away. And then you can just fast forward 6 years later, somebody hauls these statues out. A fisherman found you. And then someone in the local healer, the shaman, whatever, comes and pulls you out and turns you back to flesh.
Yeah.
And look how the world has changed.
Well, would you, because you were talking about hypothermia and stuff and being in the mountains, would you use this as if your body was to be frozen? Or what would you, do you think that fits?
It could.
I don't know. Frozen is dead to me. This is
Yeah?
not technically dead. Frozen to me, you're not aware. That's the other thing that creeps me out is you're stuck inside your own brain.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you think about how isolation is used in prisons as a major deterrent for people to just be alone, and at least then you can still distribute literature and feed the birds. Like, you still have your body, you can still move, you can still, like, do push-ups and run laps of your cell or sing or whatever. You can't do that here. You are stuck in darkness and you are immobile. That's gotta be hell.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't want to be stuck in my own mind. That's
nobody wants to be anywhere near your mind,
that
Dave.
is a scary place.
All right, so let's grab dice and say, what do you do when this happens to your character as a player? How do you keep yourself engaged? I got a nat 20.
I got a 1.
I got a 16.
For me, how do I get engaged with this? I am going to straight up do the exact same thing I was doing before about my inner monologue about, I remember this, only it's going to be haunting. Hello? Hello? First of all, I'm going to role play turning to stone too, just to scare the shit out of everybody else at the table.
Of course.
And then just have this empty loneliness.
You start calling out to the other team members on the team. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm here, I swear I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to have that horrifying moment just to make I'm going to try to make everybody's blood run a little cold.
Yeah.
So that it is a big deal to turn me back. Dave says, you guys just abandoned the people turned to stone, hey?
Oh yeah, big time.
Which is brutal. It's just a condition effect. That shit can get healed.
Yeah, but normally when it happens, we're of a low enough level that it's not going to happen anytime soon. And I mean, we got stuff to do. We're only like halfway through the dungeon.
So if you are of...
That's cold. This is your 3.5
Yeah,
showing.
stone cold.
Oh my god. Would you be able to cast message in this?
How does message work? That's a great idea.
Weird.
Because it's all mental, right? So if you were cognitively
You
aware-
cannot cast it because you need an action to be able to cast it.
And I think I remember if we do end up looking it up, I think you have to be able to move your mouth. I think that's actually one of the things in cast message is that you actually move your mouth to the words. I remember that coming up in one of our games because we were talking in message for hours and hours and hours, and then suddenly we realized that the boss could see us like mouthing words to each other.
Okay, so here's how it breaks down. You point your finger towards a creature within range and whisper a message. So the other person can do is the target, and only the target hears the message and can reply in a whisper that only you can hear. Because you can't whisper, you can't reply.
Yes.
However, you could get messages, right? As the diviner in the party, I could sit there and say, "It's okay, we're coming for you. It's all right, calm down."
Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna have to use my action to do it, but I'm probably not gonna try to heal until we're out of combat anyway.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, so try to get some rest because we need. Whichever other class it is to get a long rest, we need to chill out for 8 hours so we can select the spell and prep it and get it ready.
This person healed.
Yeah, so that kind of thing. So we're gonna put you on a cart and send you back to town.
Opposite of Dave. Dave's like, fuck it, we leave him behind.
Yeah, yeah. These are the two different kinds of players at the table.
Yeah. What I'm going to do, if I'm petrified, is I am going to grab 4d6, and I'm going to roll them 6 times. And grab the lowest one.
I'm pulling up a new character.
Yeah, I'm going to go over to the printer, get a new sheet, and start looking through the player's handbook to figure out what I want to do next. If my guys come back to me, great, but I have very little hope that will happen.
Oh, man. My response was literally I would start writing up my will and testament of where I want my items to go, who gets them, and start writing my goodbye letters.
Do you do that, Dave? I always do will and testaments.
Never.
All right. Well, we will get to that in one of the future episodes when we're talking about death. We actually covered that in our character death episode.
We did talk about character death.
Yeah, but we're going to be dealing with the mechanics of death in a future conditions episode. So everybody wait for, I don't know, roughly 14 more episodes for that one. There's a schedule. Let's chill out for a sec and go to another break before I hit you guys with something you're not expecting.
Oh.
Great.
I've got some crazy questions for you.
Oh, good.
Even better.
Well, let me throw my notes out the window.
Hey everybody, it's Adam, and I'm going to use the opportunity right now to give a shout out to probably our most prolific YouTube commenter at this point, who is Casimir Lawnicki. I hope that I pronounced that right. Casimir, thank you very much for all of the many comments and likes, and thanks to everyone else who's listening on YouTube that's pumping up our numbers over there. We're really hoping to expand everything that we are doing here into other platforms, and our YouTube has been kind of shitty and lacking. So a big shout out to James. Thank you so much again for the 100th time for helping us get some visualizations so we can make some of these videos to be able to get the stuff from the backlog that was missed on the upload due to technical difficulties. We've really started to fill it all in now, and I think almost everything is up online on YouTube. There might be, I think, maybe a Paladins and a Ranger episode that's missing, but I think pretty much everything else is already up there. So, and those are coming. So anyway, thanks to everyone who's on YouTube who's doing so much for the podcast, but especially Casimir Lawnicki, who is really just knocking it out of the park with all of the comments, and the support that we're feeling from you is inspiring. It's keeping us going, and because there's so much additional work that goes into getting it onto YouTube and not just sent out through Podbean and our regular sources. It's a big deal for us to get this kind of positive feedback and get the love there that gets us the likes and the attention and whatnot that we're so desperate to have so that we can continue to push the podcast out to other people. So again, thank you to everyone on YouTube, especially Casimir. And again, I hope I'm saying that right. And if you guys are at all interested in going over and supporting us and checking us out there, the YouTube comments are not toxic yet. We all know they will be because it's YouTube. But as it stands right now, that and our presence on Reddit have really blown up over the last couple of months, and so we're really excited about that, and we're always looking for more interaction with you guys. If you have any sort of mailbag question, head over to the subreddit at r/it'samimic. There is in fact a thread on there for you to be able to go and submit your mailbag questions. We're already almost completely loaded up for the next round, so go in there and get your questions in quickly. Additionally, head over to YouTube and check out, we've got all of our playlists set up. So if you want to go back and hear all the stuff we've done on all the lore episodes or the breakdowns of monsters, and you don't want to have to scroll, YouTube is really a great place to do that. And of course, we have the episode guide that's up there in a sticky on Reddit as well. So thanks again to everyone for listening and for supporting us. And remember to go check out that donate button on the website as well. All right, let's get back to the episode. So we've gone through Incapacitated, Stunned, Paralyzed, and Petrified. I kind of want to wrap this episode up by going through some of the monsters that get it. I'm going to give you guys the CR and the way that it works, and you tell me, is this overpowered for this level?
Okay.
Is this too dangerous? And how would you use this ability against a party? So let's start with Incapacitated, I guess. I've got a couple.
Okay.
So the first one is your Harpy, CR1. The Harpy gets a luring song. The Harpy sings a magical melody. Every humanoid and giant, specifically, which is really odd, within 300 feet of the Harpy that can hear the song must succeed on a DC 11 wisdom save or be charmed until the song ends. The Harpy must take a bonus action on its subsequent turn to continue singing. It can stop singing at any time. The song ends if the Harpy is incapacitated. While charmed by the Harpy, a target is incapacitated and ignores the songs of other Harpies. If the charmed target is more than 5 feet away from the Harpy, the target can take the dash action on its turn to move toward the Harpy by the most direct route. It does not avoid opportunity attacks, but before moving into damaged terrain, such as lava or a pit, and whenever it takes damage from a source other than the Harpy, a target can repeat the saving throw. Okay, so a creature can also repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns. Once you succeed on it, you're successful for the next 24 hours. So the idea here is that when you hit us within 300 feet, a DC 11 wisdom save makes you incapacitated, and the only thing you can do is walk toward the Harpy, ignoring dangers.
No, that's CR1 for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like, and it's a very small save.
Yeah, it's a reasonable save. You get to re-roll it on every one of your turns.
So if you're 300 feet away, you have many opportunities to get out of it, and then you're out of it for 24 hours and you know what it is. So I would say the probability of it actually causing you pain and suffering is very low. So that...
Yeah, the other thing I think is that if you're going to go fight a Harpy, potentially you're going to... Someone has told you that it's there, and you're going to go find it, and you could do things to prepare yourself to fight this. So you could, like...
You're not really getting hit out of the blue by one of these.
No, you can shove stuff in your ears to give you maybe advantage to not...
Yeah, because I think we came across a Harpy like once in, I think, a Harpy-esque. It was like the Siren Song Singers of the water, because it was a boat-oriented game. So it just made sense that if you're on a ship, you know that you might come across a mermaid or something that has an ability like this. And again, that 300 feet, and every round you get to attempt to get out of it, even if you do roll shitty once, you're probably going to get out of it eventually.
My big thing about this is a CR1. I like it, sure, it's fine. I'm with you guys. DC 11 Wisdom save means that everybody has a decent chance of getting hit by this.
Yeah.
But you're probably moving 30 feet around, or 25, so like even less. So it's at 10 to 12 rounds. You're going to save on this eventually. And then you're immune to it, that's fine. I like this better when the Harpies don't start singing until they're 60 feet away, and there's 8 of them.
Yeah, just because it's 300 feet doesn't mean they have to start at 300 feet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it becomes way scarier for a level 4 or 5 party to run into 8 of these guys. And remember, just doubling it doesn't necessarily make it an equal CR rating.
Yeah.
You do have to watch the action economy there. So I do find that 8 CR1 versus level 5, level 6 party, somewhere around there, it's about even. It's
Someone's gonna get trapped, yeah.
Yeah, you're in some sketchy territory, but only one of you will drop to unconsciousness and no one will die.
Yeah.
So all 8 of them sing the same song to try.
You have to save on every single one of them.
yeah.
And the moment that you're hit by one of them, you ignore the others and you get drawn toward that one. However, when you save, you are immune to that Harpy's song only.
Not the
so you
others.
have to do the other 7. So this is going to drag your players around the map over and over and over again. This sounds like almost an effort and frustration, but they're saving all the time and they're checking off which ones that they've hit before, right? I think this is an interesting way of running a very different kind of
It's a different kind of
encounter.
combat, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Like, that is very different. But as a player and as a DM, that kind of combat would just frustrate the hell out of me.
Would it?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Because you're not able to do a whole bunch
You're
of
just doing the same thing, 5
Yeah,
rounds of
everybody on
that.
the team is doing
You've
the same
done it
thing.
40 times. Like, oh, come on. And what happens if you're successful on every single one of them? What if everybody fails? Like, that's potentially really hazardous. You know, and like, I try not to put my characters.
Well, this is how I capture my characters, right? And besides, a silence spell is all it takes to get through this, which is level 2. They've got access to it by that point,
Fair.
right? There, like you said, there are ways around this, and it's not like you are going to come across these things by accident. I mean, it can happen, especially in a boating campaign,
Seafaring campaign.
However, for the most part, you know that they call this the Singing Hills for a reason, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so my next one is CR2, and this is the Micanid Sovereign. You guys familiar with Mycanids?
No.
These are little mushroom people that live in the Underdark and underground and whatnot. Have you seen Fantasia with all the dancing mushrooms?
Yeah.
Yeah, that. The Sovereign is their leader. They essentially have a kind of a hive mind, and they're all about spores and releasing spores out into the world, including hallucination spores. The Mycanid injects spores at one creature it can see within 5 feet of it. The target must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution save or be poisoned for 1 minute. The poisoned target is incapacitated while it hallucinates. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success.
Some Wizard of Odds poppy field shit right here.
So again, here's the mechanics. Within 5 feet, for a CR2, you have a DC 12 Constitution save, and you can be poisoned for 1 minute by this. But you get to save at the end of every round. Does this feel right to you for a CR2?
Seems a little weak, honestly.
Well, the idea is that you're not going to run into one of these guys. You're going to run into this guy and a bunch of other little
others.
Mycanid minions.
Yeah,
too.
but it's all within 5 feet. Like, that still seems...
Yeah, it seems like you're in combat. This feels almost defensive more than anything else.
Yeah, like they don't want you in the field. They're just like, get out. Like they're not really trying to kill you. They're just trying to.
They're not evil. They're lawful neutral,
Yeah.
right? Like
They're
they-
plants that don't want you in their fields.
Hey, they're not just plants. They're fun guys.
Stop it! Stop it! Think you're so funny.
Yeah. Do you think this is about on par? This is weak, Dave?
A little bit, yeah.
I think it's kind of the same as the harpies, though. It depends on how large the field is, and how many of them there are, and how stuck your party is, and were they dropped in the middle of it, or did they walk at the edge of it, right? So I think there's a lot of factors that you could scale it as a DM to make it a little bit more balanced. But if you were to literally walk to the edge of a field, notice that this is what it is, it does seem a little weak, because you've been hit by it once, you're done with it, you realize there's a field, and you figure out how to get around it, right? But if you literally dropped your party into the middle of this, like somehow they were on the back of a dragon, the birds flew them across the field and dropped them in the middle of this forest, and now you have to navigate through it, that would be a little bit of a different story.
Especially when there's 5 or 6 of these things walking around. I mean, I know it's supposed to be the leader, but I have no problem having these be Mycanid chiefs.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of them, and so you're walking through, and every once in a while you fail a save, and you're just like, oh shit, I can taste purple.
Yeah.
I like the idea that there's hallucinations that come with this too. As a dungeon master,
Throw insanity saves to that, and it would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
yay! All right, the next one, we're gonna move over to stunned.
Okay.
CR2 though, the Intellect Devourer. You guys are familiar with these guys?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've thrown them at both of you.
I think I've experienced this, yes.
Yeah, little brains, little quadruped brains. The Intellect Devourer targets one creature it can see within 10 feet of it that has a brain. The target must succeed on a DC 12 intelligence saving throw against the magic, or take 2d10 psychic damage. Also on a failure, roll 3d6. If the total equals or exceeds the target's intelligence score, that score is reduced to 0. The target is stunned until it regains at least 1 point of intelligence. How does this feel for a CR2?
So I had good experience fighting these things. I just kind of walked through them.
Yeah.
I didn't have any trouble with them at all. However, I realized that there was very much the exception and not the norm.
Yes.
Yes, you...
That was not my experience.
Yeah, no, I got someone else in the party had a bad time with it. But I mean, I didn't.
I straight up killed a player.
The whole, yeah.
Yeah. That seems
Not
very...
the character, a player. Yeah.
Not on...
No, right, no,
Yeah.
not on mic. How do you feel about this, Dave? Is this too powerful?
I think it could be.
That is really, really, really debilitating.
Yes. For CR2 and being like what level you would be at that process, like it would be incapacitating. Like it sucks.
2d10 plus 3d6?
No. 2d10 psychic damage. You roll a 3d6 to compare it against the intelligence of the
Okay.
creature.
Yeah.
And then, if the Intellect Devourer's 3d6 is higher than the creature's intelligence score, then their intelligence just drops to 0, and they're stunned until they get intelligence back. You essentially sap the brain power from them. Mm-hmm. The really shitty thing is, on the next round, they get to force another save, and then jump into the player's body.
Yes, which is what happened in our group. We got controlled, and that was the end of that chapter.
I think I killed 2 characters when I did it with you, Megan, and
Yeah, 2
one
of us.
was, yeah.
And one was controlled.
And
So
you guys were level 5+, right?
yeah.
And,
I think we started that. I think that was level 7 or 8.
yeah. And Dave, you guys were level 8, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
So, and this was CR2. Now, I am dropping multiple of these guys at a time, but that's a lot of saves
Yeah.
that you got to make, or you're screwed. Is stunned too much here? Like, if this had been incapacitated, you at least could have run.
You could have at least run, and you could have made a little bit more strategy to it. Stunned just makes it so like you literally just have to sit there and inner monologue while this happens to you. So,
Yeah. Well, you could still kind of drool and speak flatteringly.
Yeah, flattering. I look really lovely today.
You're so smart.
Of the wrinkliest brain.
Ew.
Dave, does this feel too powerful?
Yes, for CR2, yes. Even, a wizard at 2nd level, 2d10 psychic damage can just kill it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right?
there is that. Anybody with a high intelligence modifier does not have a high constitution modifier. Does not have the hit points for this.
Right? And I mean, even if it doesn't get it on the first round, it will on the next round.
And
Yeah.
then it will take over them like a heartbeat. And if their intelligence was then sapped, you're useless.
So pretty deadly. The stunned condition there is a good example of how you can really fuck over a player.
Well, the other thing is with the Intellect Devourers is once they take over that player, now you have a player that can fight the other players, and that's just...
It's my favorite thing to do as a player, by the way. I've done it multiple times in Adam's campaign, and it's my favorite.
Is it always against Dan?
It's usually Dan. I think it was once against Terry. No, that's not true. I did hit Casey.
Yeah.
Shit. I actually
I have to send a text message to apologize. Yeah.
murdered her.
Yes, you did.
Okay. But yeah, and honestly, I find that dynamic can be fun if you have the right players when it comes to these kinds of things. Because if they enjoy that, or if they can see the comedy and character and story building process behind it, it can be okay. But if you're going to drop these on a bunch of new players that have no desire to play against each other, PvP was not agreed upon in 0, these are not the big bads to use in any way, shape, or form.
All right, so let's talk about someone that is a little bit close to a big bad. Let's go to the Mind Flayer. They've got tentacles. It's a melee weapon attack, +7 to hit, 5-foot reach, so on and so forth. 2d10 plus 4 psychic damage. If the target is medium or smaller, it is grappled. The escape is a DC 15. Megan, you're loving this already. They must succeed on a DC 15 intelligence saving throw or be stunned until the grapple ends. keeping in mind that the next thing that they have here is Extract Brain, where they just straight up eat your fucking brain. So when they reduce you to 0 hit points. But that stuns you. And remember, you're stunned until the grapple ends. No, you don't get more saves.
Yeah, you can't save it.
No.
It's when it ends you get.
Yeah, those tentacles are wrapped around your face till someone comes by and
There's no
rescues
strength
you.
save to do it because you fail strength saves. There's no.
Well, you have an escape DC of 15.
Okay.
But that's your turn,
Yeah.
right? To escape. That's a bit much. How do we feel about this for a CR7?
I feel like there are a lot of abilities at CR7 that you would have as a team to stop or get out, or like you. If you were one character facing this by yourself, you're fucked. But if you have a team of people that I see this occurring, there are things that I think at this level they can do to get you out.
There are enough people with Misty Step that can get away.
Yeah, dimension doors, all that kind of stuff, right? Like there's enough things out there that if your team strategizes appropriately, that it's workable, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Like 15 can be high, but I mean, if you're all working together, it should be manageable. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you have someone that can buff you like a Bard or the Paladin Aura or something as well.
Exactly.
And
I mean, you're still mid-tier 2, so you're not going to have anything with super buffy, but you're going to have something.
this is the stuff that I save my inspiration dice for,
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, if you hand out inspiration dice like we do at tables, it's for saves like that.
Yeah. Or for giving advantage for being creative with your exit strategy.
Yeah.
So like, okay, describe it to me. And they give you this long ass, this is how I'm going to bust this tentacle off me. Then give them advantage on their roll.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
All right, the next one for stun, the last one for stun before we move on, is going to be the Mummy Lord, CR 15. One of their legendary actions. So it costs 2 actions. They're doing this after other people's turns. Mummy Lord utters a blasphemous word. Each non-undead creature within 10 feet of the Mummy Lord that can hear the magical utterance must succeed on a DC 16 con save or be stunned until the end of the Mummy Lord's next turn.
So you miss a round because it's the end of his next turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he does this not on his own turn. And it's got within 10 feet, so 10-foot radius.
What's the CR on it, sorry?
15. How do you feel about this?
I think it's a little weak.
You think so?
Yeah, I think 10 feet's not that big. You're only going to be affected if you are level 15. Your wizards, your rogues, your rangers
Are staying 300 feet away.
Yeah, right. The only people that are going to be up there are fighters and barbarians and paladins. And I mean, barbarians have constitution,
And paladins will have their saves.
right? So, like, yeah, you are vulnerable to it. A CR 16 was it?
15.
15. Like that's
It's the end of tier 3.
high, but no, the save. What's the save?
Oh, the save is
Sorry?
DC 16.
Yeah. So if the save, like, that's high, but that's again, it's
That's
still manageable.
doable at that point.
Yeah.
Your proficiency modifier. If you're proficient in a con save, you're kind of laughing at this. Even sorcerers are laughing at this.
The saving grace to it is it doesn't happen on its turn. If I was DMing and playing a Mummy Lord, that's pretty underpowered for me to waste an action on.
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste my round doing that.
Yeah.
But I would try it because
Throw
I
it in for some
can.
flavor. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, like I think it's fairly well balanced, but probably a little underpowered.
I like this because it's my anti-monk move. Right? Because I can wade in, and before the monk gets to go, let's say the barbarian goes first, then I'm going to get this off and stun the monk because it's a DC 16 con save. They probably don't have that.
True. Unless they're standing beside a paladin.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Or they pound their inspiration into it. Like there are ways to overcome this.
I've decided, by the way, to never hand out inspiration dice again.
Just now?
No, I made the decision after the last campaign. We wrapped up, and I'm sitting there going, you guys made some impossible rolls to the point where I had to make such incredibly difficult bad guys to fight.
Yep.
And you were going toe-to-toe with gods at the end, which you should be doing, but there was no fear.
Yeah. Well, I think that the thing that screwed you over at the beginning was I didn't use any of my inspiration dice for the first year we played that campaign.
Good
I
Lord.
literally had, I think, like 13 D20s worth of at the end. So when you started to not give them out anymore is when I started actually using them.
Yeah.
And that was when we were at like level 15, 16.
Oh, but in our session 0, we put limits on that. Like, you're only allowed to have
Roll
X
once
amount,
or whatever.
and you're only allowed to use this many on this turn, and if you're using it for this reason, you can only use this. And
Yeah.
like, we set out some,
Some ground rules.
yeah, just because it gets out
Yeah,
of hand
the only
fast.
thing I ever said was not on death saves.
Yep.
That was it. Stack as many as you want. Be a hero.
Oh, no, I think
Hey, man.
Ours is
I was a hero.
I think ours is a maximum of 3, maybe 4, and you can only use it on attacks and saves.
Yeah.
Saving throws, not death saves or anything like that.
All right, let's jump into Paralyzed really quickly. The Carrion Crawler, CR2, again, we're back down here. There's another tentacle thing for CR2, plus 8 to hit, and reaches 10 feet, which is unusual for 5th edition. You're getting 1d4 plus 2 poison damage. Target must succeed on a DC 13 Constitution save, or be poisoned for 1 minute. Until the poison ends, the target is paralyzed. You can repeat your saving throw at the end of your turn, which means you will definitely lose your turn.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
No, and I think it's also a good tactic to strike fear into your fighters and your ones that want to get up in other people's business. It almost teaches them a lesson.
Yeah, the fighter that just cleared out 7 goblins, humble him a little.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
right.
CR2, a DC 13 con.
I think that's reasonable though at that level to be able to get especially if you're a fighter or something like that that's going to be within that 10 feet, you're going to have that ability to get that save. It's not like you're a wizard up in that business that can't. Right? Yeah. I think it's balanced.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah, the only thing that makes me kind of raise an eyebrow is the plus 8 to hit.
Well, that just means that it's definitely going to hit and inflict this. But with only 1d4 plus 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Next up, we have a young silver dragon. I could have chosen anyone, but I went with young. CR9, they get Paralyzing Breath. The dragon exhales paralyzing gas in a 30-foot cone. Each creature in that area must succeed on a DC 17 Constitution save, or be paralyzed for 1 minute. Again, you get to save at the end of your turn.
I was on the Silver Dragons episode, so I was like, I really like this.
Yeah.
Just in the sense that, like, you have to understand why he does what he does. Like, he does it so that he can talk to you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not he's going to paralyze you to kill you. It would be frustrating as a player because you're paralyzed or what have you. But the whole concept is to expedite the storyline and communicate and talk, right?
Yeah.
So I think for the character, it's awesome. If this was to be given to someone that specifically wants to hurt and kill you, I would think that it's broken, or tough. But then again, you're fighting a dragon. Let's be real here.
Yeah, no, I agree. That seems on point. Like, it does. You read that out. It goes, that's a lot. But if it is just a mechanic to further a storyline or to stop and have a conversation,
these are lawful good. And if you listen to our Silver Dragons episode, you're going to hear Dan wax poetic about how Silver Dragons would never do anything to hurt anyone ever.
Dan is the silver dragon of the dragon world. That's what I've decided.
Yeah, and not just because he's going gray.
No, but that's part of it.
Actually, I was going to say Silver Dragons don't have hair, but they got badass mohawks.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and let's head over to Petrified. These are my favorite things. I am a fan of these creatures. First and foremost, the Cockatrice. You can laugh if you'd like.
Aha.
Thank you.
heart.
Challenge rating 1/2. Plus 3 to hit. Reaches 5 feet. It bites you, essentially. It's 1d4 plus 1 piercing damage. Target must save on a DC 11 con save against being magically petrified. On a failed save, the creature begins to turn to stone and is restrained. It must repeat the saving throw at the end of its next turn. On a success, the effect ends, but on a failure, the creature is petrified for 24 hours. How do you feel about this?
I think it's enough to give a low-level party a scare.
I really like it. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I like dropping like 10 of these motherfuckers and just sending them out into the world to see what happens.
I just can't really imagine any campaign where you would actually come across one of these naturally, other than a DM just being like, here's a thing that I just want to scare the shit of it. Scare you shitless for a minute. Because if you're a player that, like for me, there are monsters in this world I've never heard of. I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
So when I come across them and Dan's like, I know what this is. I'm like, shut your fucking face. Because I want the mystery behind it. You have no idea that 24 hours later you're going to be fine.
No, you just...
You're going to be all panicked. Your paladin's going to be like, I have to figure out how to fucking fix this. I don't... Right? Like,
That's my favorite part. My guys would just leave this guy alone, and then the player would roll up a new character, and I'd let him, and they'd play, and then they run back into the guy in town like a week later, and he's like, what the fuck, guys?
Where the fuck did you guys go? Yeah.
Seriously? All right, let's throw down, right? Now you've created a bad guy.
Yeah. So, like, I feel like it's adorable in the sense that, like, it's easy enough to kill, like, whatever, right?
The Cockatrice?
Yeah. It's
No,
like,
they've got 27 hit points and their AC is 11.
Yeah, one hit kill, basically, if you're getting in there. But I think it's enough that it's almost like that vampire bite of, like, oh, shit. Am I gonna die? Like, what is it? Like,
the first time that you get bitten by a vampire in D&D, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And you realize that, Oh, I lost 6 hit points.
Yeah, and I can fix this.
Yeah.
Right? But a learning party, it's their first time out, they wouldn't know that that's fixable. They would just panic. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that as a DM, it would be delightful to watch.
Okay, well, try this on for size then. Petrifying Breath for a Gorgon. This is CR5. The Gorgon exhales petrifying gas in a 30-foot cone. Each creature in that area must succeed on a DC 13 Constitution save. On a failed save, the target begins to turn to stone and is restrained. The restrained target must repeat the saving throw at the end of its next turn. On a success, it ends. On a failure, you're petrified until freed by the Greater Restoration spell or other magic. Greater Restoration is a 5th level spell.
Yes. Which I know for a fact, paladins, they wouldn't get into level 15.
Yeah.
So if you don't have...
You need a cleric in the
You
party.
need a cleric in the party to fix this. Or find one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we feel about this? So CR5, DC 13 con save, but you have to do it twice.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's a double save, you're kind of screwed. It's going to happen.
You think so?
I think so. Unless you have, again, if you have a paladin in the party, so your saves are buffed or something like that happens. And at that level, you would have that. But I think that there's too many stars that would have to align for this to stop it from happening, that the probability is too high.
Especially because you can hit multiple people at once.
Yeah.
30-foot cone. Dave, how do you feel?
I like this for trying to teach the party a lesson.
I like how that's the theme of today's episode, is let's teach people a lesson about...
Well, but that's the thing, is because we're stealing agency away, this does feel like a punishment.
It does, yeah.
Right? And
Yes, but it doesn't have to be. You could use this as a mechanic to petrify the players, and then the big bad evil guy is a cleric, and he unfreezes them one by one, and has that little monologue and sets up some more story, and they end up coming out of it just fine.
he just walks up and takes all their shit. Because it's magical items that he just walks up, he just waltzes in and takes it all.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to be...
You can utilize these characters to drive a story.
Exactly, right?
These abilities, right?
It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can work.
Because that's what you did, Adam. You froze the original party of one of their longest campaigns, and then we did a campaign to go and save them, right? So it can be used to your advantage.
All right, Petrifying Gaze for a Medusa, CR6.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. When a creature that can see the Medusa's eyes starts its turn within 30 feet of the Medusa can force it to make a DC 14 con save, as long as the Medusa is not incapacitated and it can see the creature. If the saving throw fails by 5 or more, the creature is instantly petrified. Otherwise, a creature that fails a save begins to turn to stone and is restrained. The restrained creature must repeat the saving throw at the end of its next turn, becoming petrified on a failure or ending the effect on a success. Again, you need Greater Restoration or other magic. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here about averting your eyes and the Medusa seeing itself and so on and so forth, but that's the general basic rule here. We're dealing with a DC 14 Constitution. Anyone within 30 feet that can see the Medusa, CR6. And if you fail by more than 5 on a DC 14, so if you end up with 9 or lower, you're fuckered. Instant petrification.
I think this is when you get those glasses that have the eyes on the lenses, so you can't see through them, and you send the paladin in with those, and then everybody sits back with crossbows 60 feet away.
Yeah, but the point is, I feel like if you're going to come up against a Medusa, you know you're coming up against a Medusa. You don't just walk up in...
It's funny because I know in my last campaign, they did not know they were coming up against a Medusa.
Yeah.
Hard stop. They just straight up did not fucking know that.
Yeah.
Which was loads of fun.
Yes. So then, yes, that's fuckery and dickishness, and that would suck. But if you knew that you were going into a lair because you want to get Medusa's eye or do something like that, like it's a part of the storyline, or you know you're going to be battling one, it's easy to find ways to get around it.
Yeah.
But if you were going to be surprised by one of these, then yes, your team is pretty much effed.
That hurts, right?
Yeah.
Dave, is this too much for CR6?
No, because you're going to have spells that you can use to hit this. You'll have spells to slow it down. You'll have
the bard to buff your saves. You'll have,
Yeah, it'll be hard for a fighter to get through, hard for maybe a monk to get through, but everything else should be able to have something that can hit it from a distance and slow it down.
Yeah, because 30 feet, technically, if you're your wizard, your sorcerer, you're going to be more than 30 feet away anyways.
Yeah.
There are ways.
All right. So, last one. We cannot have a conversation about this without talking about the Beholder.
That bitch.
CR13. Now, you do roll a d10 to figure out which rays are being used, right? So it is randomized. But on a 2, it's Paralyzing Ray, which is DC 16 con save. And on an 8, it's a Petrification Ray, which is a DC 16 dex save. Again, it requires Restoration Magic to get past the Petrification, and you can repeat your save on every consecutive roll for the Paralyzed.
For Paralyzed, you can save.
Yeah, you can save at the end of your turn over and over again.
The Petrification one,
The Petrification one, you begin to turn to stone, you're restrained, you repeat it at the end of your turn, so it's the same basic
you can
thing
save it.
Yeah.
So I think that's what balances it, is the fact that it can be saved.
Sierra 13, DC 16 for con or dex. How do you feel?
I mean, as a rule, you don't mess around with the beholders. You just leave.
True.
But to a party or unknown denounced to them who've never been up against Beholder before, it's their first time, they wouldn't know to run away.
It's a learning experience.
Yeah. But, like, I mean, the probability of rolling one of those out of the 10 other, 10 possibilities, I don't really know what the other possibilities are at this point, but...
Well, the other ones off the top of my head, well, I'm looking at it, not top of my head.
Yeah.
The other ones are Charm Ray, Fear Ray, Slowing Ray,
Yeah.
Enervation Ray, which is essentially necrotic damage. It's 8d8 necrotic.
Yeah.
Telekinetic Ray, which throws you. Sleep Ray, which makes you unconscious. Disintegration Ray, which is 10d8
Good times.
force. And Death Ray, which is 10d10 necrotic.
Too close.
And remember, you get to do 3 of these rays at a time.
Yeah.
And you get a legendary action where you get to use another ray 3 times at the end of other creatures' turns. So you're getting 6 rays off every round.
Yeah, don't fight it. Just run away.
Is this too overpowered for a CR 13?
I want to say that at that level, you should, as a party, have the ability to buff each other, help each other, and figure it out and plan it accordingly. But I think rules is written. If you see a beholder, just turn and run away, because it is very difficult to deal with. Very difficult. No matter what ray you get hit by, it sucks.
We've got a couple of episodes coming up on beholders.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through them all and dig into it. But first opinions, too much?
It would also be like the most frustrating battle on the planet. Like,
Have you ever fought a beholder, Megan?
yes.
Not a death tyrant. I know you've done that. I mean a straight beholder.
No.
Okay.
But, like, in my mind, I'm like, no matter what ray you get hit by, you are dealing with a debilitating... If you don't save, you're dealing with being stuck on your next turn, having to roll saves. Like, it would just be so frustrating and annoying having to deal with one of these things. So, like, CR 13, as much as I want the party to be buffed enough that this would not be annoying and overpowered, it probably will be.
Yeah, no, I agree. It will probably be too much.
Okay, so what CR would you put this at? 15, 16?
Yeah, it's tier 4.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind as well that these guys get layer actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
a lot.
probably going to lose a player or 2 fighting one of these.
And it might just simply be because of the paralyzed or petrification.
Or
because
death ray.
you're taking people off. Well, they can still heal when they get hit by that stuff. It's taking players out of the game. You're changing the action economy so much with these. And that's the other thing that we didn't really talk about is, sure, it's cute with the Cockatrice, or to petrify for 24 hours, or it's fun with the Mummy Lord to stun someone for 1 round and it may or may not get off. But you have just dropped what the party can do by 25%, 20%, somewhere in that range for most parties.
And put them in front of something that where its goal is to kill you.
Yeah, so like it's deadly, right? Like these things, not only are we taking away agency from a player, we're hurting the whole party and their ability to be effective, and we're setting them up for real failure.
Yeah.
With these condition effects, more so than blinded or frightened or grappled.
Yeah.
So, final thoughts before we wrap this episode up?
I think that this whole section should be kind of what we talked about earlier about how it should just be, instead of 5 different conditions, it's stunned and different levels. I think that would make it more simplified, kind of like exhaustion.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're incapacitated, but at what level? Are you stunned? Are you what have you? I think that'd be a better way to break it down.
Yeah, I did agree with you, but now that we've kind of gone through some of the creatures, I like how... I guess you could just substitute it with you take the 3rd level of stunned.
Yeah.
But I like how there's the different...
Flavor-wise.
Yeah, it is the same, but it's different.
I like that there's one specific condition that each one of the monsters has. I like the idea of the table for monks specifically, right? For players gaining the ability to do stuff.
Yeah.
But when it comes to monsters, no, I just want the harpy to be able to do this one thing. I don't need it to stack levels, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really, really enjoy using this stuff in games, but I will tell you, I don't use it on beginner groups. And I usually telegraph that this shit is going to happen ahead of time. If you're going to go fight a Medusa, you see some real lifelike statues beforehand on the way in, right? You will see that this Gorgon, this metal bull, is surrounded by a handful of birds that are just stone that are lying on the ground. Like it just wiped out some random animals.
Yeah.
Right. You can see when you go up against a carrion crawler, you can see that there's somebody that is half digested and still alive, staring at you, going, "Help!" Right.
Yeah, but with new players, I'm not using conditions in general, except for maybe grappled.
Yeah, as a general rule, you're right. I wouldn't do that either.
Right, like it's, just get them into the game, let them learn what stuff is first, and then once you get the experience, that's when you start, attacking the conditions. Right, that's when you start really hitting them with it.
Yeah, and I really feel like these are tier 2 and tier 3 conditions as a general rule. I liked a lot of the stuff with CR2. It was low.
Yeah.
Right? But if I'm really going to start to mess with this on a regular basis, you're right. I want players that have got some experience. They're going to be able to have some abilities and work together and think their way through it.
I was going to say, be at a level where they have a spell that could help them. Whether they understand that spell does that or not, like, they'll learn. But the fact that they have it in their roster, I think, is important.
It's not just that, it's giving them the opportunity to put themselves in a situation where they can make that argument to get advantage or disadvantage, or, to get advantage on their roll, right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, any player that you're going to throw one of these creatures at might not necessarily, the first time anyways, know how to change their situation in order to get that advantage. Give it, let them build up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and frankly, when you come into one of these save or die scenarios, whether it is a intellect devourer or a Medusa or beholder, whatever it is, when you get up to that, like, hey, if I fail this save, I'm screwed. I like to do it to an NPC in front of the party first.
Yeah.
Let them know the nightmare that they're gonna face the first time they see it.
Yeah.
After that, everybody I know has faced an intellect devourer before. The next time that I say, "Oh, you see a brain on the desk," everyone's just going to be like, "Well, wait, fuck, are there feet?"
I'm leaving the room.
Yeah.
I turn around and I walk away.
No. Yeah, close the door.
All right, well, that's it for this week's episode on conditions. There are many more to cover, and we will be circling back to them over the next few months. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as dozens of other podcast apps. You can also find us at www.itsamimic.com or email us at info@itsamimic.com. Thanks for listening to the It's a Mimic podcast, and make sure to check out our episode next week when we are covering half-elves and half-orcs. I think it's you guys with Dan.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
I was like, we
did that one already.
talked about this.
Yeah.
Don't let people know we record these out of order.
Oh, Jerry.
You've reached the end of another episode of the It's a Mimic podcast. Connect with us at itsamimic.com. Don't forget to subscribe and hit those share buttons. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.
Is there a condition in D&D that does not exist that you think should exist? A condition effect of a mechanic that you sit there and say, "Hey, I really want there to be a ruling for this in the book somewhere"?
I was about to say being tired, but I'm like, wait a minute. That exists, and it sucks.
Yeah, grab dice. Let's roll.
All right.
I got a 15.
3.
14.
I want a burned condition. I want burning. I want mechanics for what the fuck happens while you are on fire. And not just a 1d6 on some breath weapons and stuff that happen, right? Like, I want you are immolated. You are a protesting monk.
Yeah.
And you are on fire.
But I mean, why burned? Because once you get burned, you have already taken that damage. And then
No. I mean, consistently, round after round, on fire. You are burning.
Okay, well, you take fire damage then. There you go. Fire damage. So your clothes are on fire.
Yeah, but
therefore burning.
But
and
no,
take
no.
fire damage
but
every round.
No, that's not the mechanic in 5th Ed, Dave. That's not how it works anymore.
Well, then that's the one they should use. That's my answer.
I feel like I always reference mechanics that exist in other D&D campaigns, like previous editions.
Right?
Yeah, no, before that was the case, but now when you get hit with fire, anything, spell or dragon breath or anything, everything around you will burn except items that the character is carrying, and you are not taking fire damage round after round anymore. We just don't have that enough.
That's what homebrew rules are for. You just kind of force it on the players.
That's my point of the question, though, Dave.
Is that it's something that should exist? Should it be interesting?
Yeah, I mean, if you're on fire, you should be taking fire damage. So you said burned, and it's more burning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a damage over time kind of thing.
Yes, we don't have any of those cumulative... Like, there was a bleed mechanic in one of the previous editions as well, where you get sliced open and continue to bleed until it stops. We don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And I miss that.
Yeah, I've seen that in other games. What's like Wounded, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, you do see that. I would, like, the opposite of fire. You know, if you're out in the cold, maybe an increasing hypothermia kind of condition.
I was also going to say, like, mine was going to be, like, I was thinking hypothermia, too, so how can I opposite this to Adam?
Yeah, I want to always be the opposite of him.
Yeah, but to add to the hypothermia piece, it'd be neat to have, like, a body decay mechanic for if you got frostbite.
Yeah, you see, I'm fine with... A lot of people just use exhaustion for that.
But, like, the physical, like you to the point where you'd have to amputate your hand. Like, your hand specifically does not work, or your fingertips. Or
Well, hold on. Is that yours then, Megan? Is you need an amputation mechanic?
Shut up.
Megan's character lost her leg in the last one because Dan shot it off with a crossbow. He just took it out of the kneecap.
Jesus.
Yeah, that dick.
Yeah.
You probably had it coming, though.
It's true. I did kill a lot of innocent women and children. So.
As is tradition, yeah.
In a church, by the way.
I did.
It happens.
I am a good person.
The paladin wasn't, though. Yeah.
She was the
I
paladin.
was the paladin.
It's role playing. You don't have to be what you are in real life.
Role playing, guys. But what would you do for hypothermia? Would it be? As you were saying, exhaustion mechanic would kind of work for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, exhaustion would work. And then, again, instead of taking burning damage over every round, you take cold damage.
yeah.
It's pretty straight.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. I like the idea of your mental stats dropping with your, like, you're taking stat damage for hypothermia over time. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily hit points, but you were just unable to know which direction is north because your wisdom is dropped to a 6, and, you know, you can't lift things because you're shivering. You're like, maybe it's con saves against hypothermia, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.